How many hunters does it take to wipe during the Omega Planetus hunt in Monster Hunter Wilds? As many as you can bring along, my friends. Hi folks, this is Toby, and today I will share my soul-crushing attempt to hunt Omega Planetus, or Planetes in Greek I guess, in Monster Hunter Wilds. So yeah, I was invited alongside a bunch of media folks to try out some upcoming games at Capcom's US headquarters in San Francisco as part of a Tokyo Game Show preview. So I ended up driving for 4 hours to get to the Bay Area just to play some games. Which games, you ask? Well, they included Monster Hunter Stories 3, which was really good by the way, so I'll share my thoughts on that in another video. And then of course another thing we were allowed to try was the upcoming Omega Planetus hunt, which is part of a collaboration between Monster Hunter Wilds and Final Fantasy XIV. Now I'll admit, I've been super busy at work, so I haven't played Monster Hunter Wilds since clearing the Lagacruz story hunt, which I thought was pretty fun. In fact, I failed my first attempt because I was having so much fun, I accidentally killed Lagacruz instead of capturing it. The lesson as always is, I'm an idiot. Which brings us to Omega Planetus. Based on my experience, I will tell all of you now, unless you're some Monster Hunter savant, the Omega Planetus hunt is not the hunt you want to start with after a nearly 3-month break from the game, okay? Oy. Like the MMO-inspired Behemoth hunt from Monster Hunter World, this hunt has so many mechanics, including aggro plus a DPS check. You can't just waltz in like you would against Lagacruz or even Zosia, and then expect to clear it on your first try with just basic knowledge of the game. It's not like riding a bicycle for sure. You really need to know what's going on, and that knowledge also needs to be spread across your teammates when playing multiplayer. In fact, the first time we were in trouble was when someone in our group of 4 media and influencer folks asked if anyone in the US Capcom office has beaten Omega Planetus. The answer was just one person, who cleared it solo with AI helpers. Others apparently came close, but weren't able to do it yet, and I think they were trying to hunt it as a group. But maybe there were some solo attempts in there as well. But that's understandable since it was a new hunt, so they were learning it as well. But it made me realize that a first play clear was going to be rough since the US Capcom office had some veteran players in there as well. The other sign was that they prepared a super short video explaining some of the mechanics of the hunt. Now, as someone who has visited the US Capcom office many times over the years to preview many new hunts, this was the first time I had to watch a video explaining hunt mechanics. At least it's the first time I remember, unless my memory's failing, which could very well be the case since I'm getting old. Anyway, the video certainly helped, but it kind of went fast, and it's not really until you're thrown into the fire that you really learn what to do in these hunts. Now, usually for these media sessions where you preview a new hunt as opposed to a new game, you normally just have time to do one hunt. That is, unless your team wipes out so quickly, you can actually have a second try. And that's happened to me before too. I think it was with a Flaming Espinas. But to be fair, one of the people in our group has never played Monster Hunter at all. Plus the game wasn't rebooted, so we ended up playing without items because the previous media session group used all of them. Ah, Flaming Espinas. Thanks for the memories. Anyway, I also have limitations in terms of how many minutes of video I can show, so this video will be mostly from the first hunt, with the exception of the first part, because I want to show people what it's like to mount Omega Planetus. During our first hunt, the office was having internet problems, so we ended up having half of our group basically disconnect. And so we got a second try after that, although it almost would have been better not to have a second hunt because I tried to be so aggressive that second hunt, and I ended up carding more than once. It was quite embarrassing. A big part of it was because when you're aggressive, you also end up drawing aggro more often, and I wasn't quite sure how to deal with it. Apparently you're supposed to try to survive when you see that aggro marker on you, but me being an idiot, I still try to be aggressive, and spoiler alert, it did not end well. Anyway, you can kind of get an idea of Omega Planetus attacks from the video, but I will highlight some attacks that I remember because they gave me trouble. At the top of the list is the Red Circle of Death spam attack, which fills the area with multiple targeting circles, followed by a bunch of fire. Like if you get hit, you actually get Fire Blight. Now this wasn't the most damaging attack, but it was the most annoying for me to deal with. And one reason is because of the slow move recovery for the Greatsword. So basically you have to be on point with your perfect tackles and your guards if you're not able to dodge in time. Another thing that's dangerous about the Red Circle spam attack is that it can actually set you up to get hit by the giant laser. And that actually happened to me in the second hunt where I Superman dove the fiery circle attack while I was almost dead. And that worked, but then while I was standing up, from that Superman dive, Omega Planetus decided to fire a giant laser on top of my head, and so I carted. And that was one of my carts from the second hunt. By the way, when you see those little mini spawns that Omega Planetus does, with those little circular robots, I recommend taking down as many of those as you can with your weapon, because that spawns a shield, which you can then stand in to protect you from Omega Planetus's attacks. Because the other thing you could do is use that Final Fantasy special wand attack, which is great for getting rid of a bunch of them, but if you do it that way, you don't get the shield. And the shield is really helpful, especially against those red circular fire circles, because you can just stand in the circles as long as you got the shield and keep attacking Omega Planetus without having to worry about getting damaged. And then speaking of the giant laser, this one has a noticeable tell, and it can also be blocked, so it's not too bad if you're ready. And then there's the Mazinger Z rocket punch attack, which sends several giant fists your way. Now you can hit this with an offset attack, which is the ideal way to deal with it. I believe you can also trigger a power clash with it if you do a perfect guard, but I wasn't able to confirm that myself. And then speaking of offset attacks, I was able to confirm one of them, and that's when Omega Planetus does that jump. You can actually counter that with an offset attack. And then Omega Planetus also has a spread laser attack that he likes to spam, but it has a pretty generous startup, and it has several gaps, so you can easily dodge it. But if you don't, you can always just greatsword tackle it, and I think you can block it too. Anyway, there you go, my thoughts on my first hunt against Omega Planetus. I'd also like to say thanks to the other players in my team, which included Kit and Krista, formerly of Nintendo. And the folks in my group really made the hunt fun, even though we couldn't clear it. Just positive vibes all around, even among all that death. Or carting, I guess. In fact, when this hunt comes out, my plan is to do what I always do, which is to solo clear it at first. And then once I'm familiar with it, that's when I'm going to go online, because I don't want to be contributing to carts when I play with other players. Which I did here, especially the second hunt, and it didn't feel great at all. As always, if you have any thoughts or questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. Once again, this is Tabi Asobi, and thank you for watching.
I'm done.